Hi everyone, good morning and happy Tuesday. New day, new book recommendation that I wanted to share with you guys. So I have three books. Two of them I haven't yet used. One I used just last week in one of my counseling sessions with a group of third graders, and I'm already in love with this author. So the author is Tom Percival, and I don't know if there's other books in this series. I'm not sure, to be honest, but I purchased these books. Actually, no. So these books, I did get these books through Amazon, but I actually received these books through a Donors Choose project that I had created not too long ago. So I just got these this school year. For any of my educator friends out there, Donors Choose is a fantastic program that really gives you access, as long as your project gets funded, but it helps give you access to so many resources, and there's different like sites that you can connect with through Donors Choose, like when you're creating a project, and it's really easy, super simple to create a project. I think to date I've created three projects that I've done that have been fully funded. And I first created my very first project 2 years ago, and the project that I had created was all for books. I was requesting a ton of books. I think that project was maybe like over $600 by the end of after I picked out the books that I wanted. And it was such an amazing experience, actually, because here in Connecticut there was a local news station in Connecticut that just happened to be doing a feature about Donors Choose. And it's really funny, actually, the way that it all kind of played out, because I remember that day, it was during summer of that year, and I was actually in New York City with one of my cousins, and we just went for the day to kind of hang out and like just have fun. And I'll never forget, we were in Chelsea Market, and I get a message from the school nurse in my building saying that I was on TV, I was on the news. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not on the news, I don't know what you're talking about. And then she sent me the link to the to the news station's like report that they did, and the journalists were talking about Donors Choose. And then next thing I know, my project pops up on my screen, and you see my face. They talked about my project and what my project was all about. And then like a few days later, I got an email from them asking if they could meet with me and do an interview. And then from there, they end up coming to this very office, actually, although it looked a little different. It was a different setup, but they came here and interviewed me about my project. And literally, I think after they had aired my project the first time on their news station about talking about Donors Choose and how it's helpful, why it's so important, like within I think days, my project was fully funded. So a huge part of that was thanks to NBC News Connecticut, because they kind of put my project out there and it got funded. And then after that, like towards the beginning of the school year, at the end of the summer, they asked to come back, and they did a second interview with me about my books that I received and how I would be using those with not just my English speaking students, but my Spanish speaking students as well, because I was also requesting a lot of resources in Spanish, because I felt like that was something I was lacking. I didn't have the resources for that. And then they ended up coming back, and it was such a fantastic experience. I was so grateful. And so the reason I share this is because I think for any of you who are maybe struggling and you really want to incorporate more books and literacy or even games. My second project was all about games and getting board games and like different toys that I could use with my students for counseling, and because I really want my counseling sessions to be engaging for my students. So again, the reason why I'm sharing all of this before I get into this book recommendation is that Donors Choose is a fantastic way to help support someone's classroom, and not just classroom, but school counselors, social workers, school psychologists, anyone that works in education. Is a great way to have access to resources. And if you donate, I promise you, you're changing not just that teacher's life, but tons and tons of students' lives as well, for the better, and giving them access to so many more materials that they might not have otherwise. So with that said, I had created a Donors Choose project at the beginning of the school year, requesting a few like toys and some new books that I really wanted, because it does get so expensive. And for the most part, I do purchase everything. Sometimes people will message me on Instagram and ask me, how do you afford that, or is it through grants, or where do you get all of these materials? And honestly, it's all out of pocket. I've spent thousands, probably over the years, thousands of dollars on materials, and people sometimes will ask me, like, why do you spend so much money? Like, it's ridiculous, you're not getting reimbursed for it. But at the end of the day, honestly, for me, it's not about the amount of money that I'm spending, but it's really about like the kids, and for me, I get so much joy out of when I bring a new activity and my students get so excited and it's so meaningful for them. So anyways, that was a long-winded explanation, but Donors Choose is a really fantastic resource. So to get into the actual book recommendations for today, these books I received through Donors Choose, and this one is the first one that I wanted to talk about, Ravi's War. This one, on the top it says, what happens when Ravi can't control his temper. And oh my gosh, I love this book. So the way I use this with my students, and it's funny because sometimes people will send me messages and say, I can see that you have training as an educator, as a teacher, and I sort of don't really think anything about it, but I guess in some ways it does show, because when I have my students for counseling, I try to include some kind of academic spins on it as well. And so when I had this book, we started off by talking about the cover, and I asked students to make predictions. So we predicted, based on the title, well, what do you think the book's going to be about? What zone do you think the boy's in? In our building, we do zones of regulation. So we talked about what zone do you think he's going to be in. We looked at the back of the cover. And then it says, most of the time, Ravi can control his temper, but one day he lets out the tiger within. And so we made predictions on what we thought was going to happen in the book. And one of my students said that he thought that Ravi was going to go through all the zones. He said, I bet you he's going to be in the blue zone, probably the yellow zone, the red zone, the green zone. And so we talked about that for a little bit, and then from there we started the book. And this book is such a great book. It's so fantastic. And what I like about the books too is that I love the title, Ravi's War. I love that it's incorporating, including, other cultures, so it kind of helps expose your students to other cultures, names in other cultures, which I absolutely love. But the nice thing about the book is that it gives realistic, real life scenarios that our own students probably encounter every day, on the playground. In the book, he's upset because sometimes he's lost. He's upset because it's sort of like everything that happens in the book, every scenario, he sort of gets the short end of the stick. And then you can kind of talk with the students about, well, does his reaction match the size of the problem? Is what he's doing, how he's handling the situation, do you think that's going to be helpful? Do you think it's going to make his problem worse? And the reason why I loved this book, again, body language, you can talk about, well, how can you tell? But we also do some perspective taking. We look at the people around him and read their body language and ask, well, is that expected or unexpected? How do you think that if someone acts like that, how do you think that's going to make someone else feel? Will you want to be around someone that acts like that or does that? Would someone want to be around you if you do that? So we have lots of different kind of conversations throughout the book as we're reading it. We talk about, sometimes it is frustrating when you have to be last, or when you're you kind of, things don't work out your way. So like in this one, he's short, so he can't really reach the other little stump that he's trying to jump to, and he can't get to the monkey bars because they're too high. So we talk about how sometimes in life things can be really frustrating, and you sometimes do have big reactions to certain situations. But what I really liked is that this book confirmed my student's prediction about the fact that he thought the boy was going to go through sort of all the zones. And what I like about that the author did was that at the end of the book, we had sort of an in-depth discussion about the fact that, you're never just in one zone for the whole entire day. So you don't always wake up in the morning feeling happy, and then the whole day you're happy until the end of the day. I mean, maybe sometimes, but not always. And we talked about how that's okay, that's normal. It's normal for our feelings to shift throughout the day. It's normal for us sometimes to start in the green zone and end up at some point in the yellow or the blue zone and then go back to the green zone. Or it can be normal too to start in the blue zone. Maybe you're really tired, maybe you're sad about something, but then as your day gets going, maybe you feel happy, you might find yourself feeling frustrated. But what can we do to help ourselves get back to the green zone? And also recognizing that there's no bad zone. It's okay if you're in the red zone, it's okay if you're in the blue zone, but talking more about what can we do to help ourselves so that we can help, if we're feeling really upset about something, kind of de-escalate ourselves so that we don't have those explosive big reactions in the book where then we might be affecting other people around us too. So that's one thing that I love about the books. And the other thing I like about the book as well is at the end, it has a little kind of question and answer section for the students. So it's addressed to the readers. It says, "Dear reader, this is a book about a boy who has a bad day and is angry about it. Everybody gets mad sometimes for a lot of different reasons, and that's okay. We all have lots of different feelings, and we use those feelings to help us understand the world. But it doesn't feel good to get too angry, and sometimes it causes us to not be nice to other people. So whenever you're mad, here are a few questions to ask yourself. So I love this because right away you're teaching students really important life skills that they really need to think about and understand and start to apply themselves. So it gives you a couple questions like, what happened that's making me feel angry? Is it one thing or a few different things? Is there anything I can do about it? If not, is there anyone I can talk to? Do I need to apologize to anyone I might have lashed out at? Because the book also talks about the boy kind of apologizing to his family members for his behavior. But no matter what you're feeling, remember it always helps to talk about it. Be open, be honest, be you. And I love that. And then he also references an organization, childmind.org. So great. It gives resources for families, for parents, or for teachers. But I love those questions. And if you think about it, that's also incorporating some executive functioning as well, having students stop and think, plan out, plan ahead, ask themselves those questions before they do or react to something. So I love this book. I can't recommend this book enough. My students had so much fun reading this book, and I have some ideas on sort of extension activities that I want to incorporate with this book, so stay tuned for that. But Ravi's War, and again, I got this through Amazon, but I received this through Donors Choose Project, so I'm so grateful for all the donors who have over the years donated to my project, and especially this donation. I was so touched because one person basically donated the entire project for me, and I was really grateful, and I hope she knows how much that really meant to me because like I said, if you can't tell, I love using books. And you know, one-on-one, the books are not expensive, but then as you add them to your cart, you see the price go up, and it gets a little overwhelming sometimes, the cost of all the items and spending money on all of the items. So Donors Choose is a fantastic project, so I highly recommend creating one if you're an educator, and if you're a family member or someone who has children that, you know, attend school, definitely look up in your community local Donors Choose projects. And if you're able to donate, honestly, even $5, a couple dollars, it goes a long way, and it really does add up. So this is the book that I did read. I haven't yet read these, but I'm really excited to use these with my students. This one is called Ruby Finds a Worry. What do you do when worry won't leave you alone? And this one I'm really excited. This is obviously going to be perfect for students that have maybe anxiety or feel nervous, or if you're trying to find lessons to do with students on like zones of regulation. This would be a perfect book for the yellow zone. And then this book is called Perfectly Norman, and it says Norman had always been perfectly normal until he grew a pair of wings. So this one, I haven't read this one either, but I'm really excited. I've never had any books. I don't know if this author has other books, but Tom Percival, again, is his name, and I highly recommend looking these books up. You can also visit www.bloomsbury.com, and that's the company that published the books. So with that said, these books are a great way, I think, to help explore feelings with your students. And another thought I had, kind of to put a little bit of an academic spin on it, is if you are an elementary school teacher and maybe you're working with your students in math on things like graphing, charting, finding data and making like tables and putting it together, this book could be a really good book to even incorporate in math and tying in literacy with math and social emotional learning, because my idea is that you could take this book, read it, talk with students about the fact that our feelings shift throughout the day. Just like the boy, he literally went into every single zone. He was sad, he was happy, he was mad throughout the book, and, you know, sad because he felt left out, he felt alone, nobody wanted to be around him. So you can have so many discussions. I promise you will love this book. But my idea is you can talk with your students and have them chart their emotions throughout the day, and then maybe as a whole class make a giant graph where you ask students, okay, think about today, think about your morning. What were you feeling this morning, or what zone were you in this morning? Have all the students, you know, submit their answer, fill it out, whether it's on a sticky note, on a Google slide or Google sheet activity. And then you can, from there, maybe on the smartboard or a whiteboard, chalkboard, make a big like graph or big paper and have students come up, make it interactive. They can put their name under what feeling they had that morning. And then from there, you have a chart, you have some data. You can talk, wow, out of, I don't know, 15 students we have, you know, 5 of our students felt really sleepy this morning when they woke up. 2 of our students felt really happy. 1 student felt excited. 1 student felt mad, and so on. And then chart it, create some data, have students then explore and do something with those numbers. How many more people were happy than sad? How many people total felt angry, what emotion was greatest, what emotion was the least this morning, and then maybe at the end of the chart how they're feeling at the end of the day, and then make something similar. Then the next day compare and say, compare and contrast who felt the same, who felt different, whose zone changed in the day, who stayed the same. So lots of ways that you can really get creative and tie in academics, literacy, and social emotional learning. And this is something that I'm so passionate about. So I really appreciate those of you who take the time to message me and tell me how you like the activities that I share and how you use them with your students, and maybe give me ideas as well. So I really appreciate that. Let me know if you have these books. Let me know if you're going to buy these books and how you use them or plan to use them with your students. So on that note, I will leave it here. I hope you guys have a fantastic Tuesday, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.